You've run, haven't you, from the ache, from the silence, from the not knowing. But what if I told you the very thing you're running from is where everything begins to bloom? Stillness is often misunderstood. In a world driven by noise, urgency, and movement, stillness can appear lazy, passive, or even weak. But those who truly understand it, those who've sat long enough in silence to hear the pulse of their own soul, know this truth. Stillness is not emptiness. It is power resting. It's in our nature to run. When things go wrong, we panic. When we feel uncertain, we overthink. When we fear being left behind, we overcompensate. We are trained to do, to fix, to chase. Action is applauded. Productivity is worshipped. And exhaustion is mistaken for progress. But there is a quiet rebellion happening beneath all that noise, a wisdom as old as time that whispers to the weary, stop, sit, be still. Because in that stillness, something ancient wakes up inside of you. You see, everything in nature honors rest. The seasons do not rush from spring to fall without allowing for stillness in between. The bear does not doubt her strength just because she's hibernating. The ocean does not stop being mighty when its waves are calm. Power, real power, does not need to prove itself constantly. It knows its own weight. It trusts its own timing. It knows when to roar and when to rest. But most people have forgotten this rhythm. We've grown addicted to urgency. We believe we must solve, move, speak, post, build, explain. And in doing so, we lose touch with the wisdom of our own being. We forget that clarity doesn't come from movement. It comes from presence. It comes from pause. Stillness is not the absence of power. It is the container that holds it. Imagine a bow being drawn before releasing an arrow. That tension, that still moment before the release, is not weakness. It is power being focused. It is direction being chosen. It is precision being prepared. That moment of stillness determines the flight of the arrow, and so too in your life. Your stillness becomes the birthplace of your next becoming. So many of us rush into decisions. We speak out of reaction, not reflection. We move from anxiety, not alignment. We pursue love from lack, not fullness. And in our rushing, we wonder why we feel so far from peace, so distant from purpose. But peace is not hiding, it is waiting. It waits for you to slow down enough to recognize it was always there, beneath the noise. To be still is not to give up. It is to surrender control so that something wiser can step in. Stillness says, I trust the timing. It says, I don't need to force what is meant for me. It says, my worth is not determined by my pace. And the more you practice it, the more you'll begin to feel your power returning to you. In stillness, your mind stops running and your soul starts speaking. You start hearing the quiet truths you've buried beneath the opinions of others. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You start to feel what's real and what's noise. And slowly, gently, you begin to rise, not from striving, but from remembering. Stillness is a sacred rebellion. It defies the systems that demand your constant output. It breaks the cycles that tie your value to your productivity. It returns you to the truth. You are enough, even when you do nothing. And from that enoughness, you rise with power that is unshaken, unforced, and undeniable. There is no need to prove your power when you carry it silently. You don't have to shout your truth when you live it. Stillness teaches you that. It refines you. It disciplines you. It teaches patience, not passivity. It births discernment, not delay. It sharpens vision, not avoidance. And in that stillness, you start to see differently. You stop chasing what you don't need. You stop answering questions that no longer concern you. You stop reaching for doors that were never meant to open. And the miracle? You begin to attract what once eluded you, because you are no longer vibrating with desperation. You are resting in power. The most powerful rivers flow with calm strength. The deepest minds speak with quiet authority. And the most impactful lives are not lived in frantic busyness, but in intentional being. You don't have to rush, you don't have to force, you don't have to chase, you just have to trust the power resting within your stillness. And that changes everything. There's a divine contradiction written into the fabric of this world. The slower you move, the faster life aligns. It sounds counterintuitive to the modern mind, trained to hustle, push, and prove. We are told that if we don't move fast, we'll fall behind. If we don't keep up, we'll miss out. We measure worth by pace and success by urgency. But the universe does not operate on fear. It does not respond to frantic energy. It flows with rhythm, not resistance. It honors presence, not pressure. And it rewards the one who dares to slow down. Most people are so busy chasing what they think they want, they don't even realize they're running in circles. They rush into relationships without healing. They leap into opportunities without discernment. They say yes from a place of fear, not alignment. And then they wonder why life feels like chaos. They wonder why they're exhausted, resentful, disconnected. But the truth is that you can't receive what's meant for you when you're moving too fast to recognize it. Slowing down is not stopping, it's tuning in. It's choosing to live consciously instead of automatically. When you slow down, you begin to feel the difference between movement and momentum. You start to ask, am I truly progressing, or am I just performing busyness to feel valuable? Because busyness can be a mask. It can be a distraction from the parts of yourself you're afraid to sit with. But the universe doesn't need your mask. It needs your attention. It needs your truth. And that truth can only be heard when you are quiet enough to listen. When you slow down, you give your energy time to align. Your frequency shifts. You stop sending out signals of fear, scarcity, or impatience. Instead, you begin to radiate trust, clarity, and confidence. And the universe responds, not because you've pushed harder, but because you've come into sync with what's already yours. You see, when you slow down, your vision clears. You stop reacting and start responding. You no longer chase love, you attract it. You no longer beg for opportunities, you magnetize them. Why? Because you've made space. Space for grace, space for intuition, space for miracles to move in. But you must be brave enough to pause, to breathe, to unlearn the idea that everything must be earned through exhaustion. Some things, the best things, arrive when you stop trying to force them. The door opens when you stop pounding. The call comes when you've stopped obsessing. The path appears when you're finally still enough to see it. Slowing down is a spiritual decision. It's saying, I don't have to know every step. I just need to stay in step with myself. It's trusting that divine timing is more intelligent than your personal timeline. It's letting go of the lie that quicker means better, because some of the most beautiful things take time. A tree doesn't rush its growth, the stars don't hurry their shine, and your becoming deserves the same grace. The universe does not move by force, it moves by flow, and flow can't be faked. You can't cheat your way into alignment. You have to feel your way there. That requires slowness, it requires patience, it requires the willingness to be present without proof. And that's hard, because we crave certainty, we want guarantees. But life offers something better. It offers rhythm. And when you move with rhythm rather than resistance, life begins to move for you. Opportunities come easier. People treat you differently. The right conversations, the right timing, the right alignment, all of it shows up when you're no longer rushing into things not meant for you. The universe moves quickly, yes, but only once you slow down enough to match its wisdom. There is a difference between speed and alignment. One is driven by fear of lack. The other is led by deep trust in divine orchestration. The question is, which one are you living by? Every time you slow down and return to presence, you cast a vote for your peace over your pressure. And that peace becomes a magnet. It calls in what you once chased. It orders the pieces that once felt scattered. It builds bridges between you and your destiny. So the next time you feel that anxious urge to rush, ask yourself, is this alignment or is this fear? And if the answer is fear, pause, breathe, listen. Because when you slow down, the noise fades and the truth rises. And the universe, finally able to hear the clarity of your soul, begins to move mountains in your favor, not because you forced it, but because you flowed. Clarity is not something you chase. It is something that arrives when you become quiet enough to receive it. In a world that's constantly speaking, constantly shouting, you begin to believe that the louder something is, the more true it must be. But the truth, the deepest truth, it almost always comes in whispers. We live in an age where noise is mistaken for meaning. The scroll never ends. The updates never stop. The opinions flood your mind before your own thoughts even have the chance to form. You wake up to voices, notifications, texts, headlines, conversations that don't belong to you, yet they dictate how you feel, how you think, how you move. And so you carry that noise with you throughout the day. You make decisions from it, you shape your life around it, and still you wonder why you feel disconnected, disoriented, or unsure. You can't find clarity in chaos. The mind is not a vessel for noise, it is a sanctuary for insight. But you must protect that sanctuary. You must create distance between yourself and everything that demands your immediate attention. Because not everything urgent is important. Not everything loud is wise. Not everything that pulls at you deserves your response. Clarity does not beg. It waits. It waits for you to turn inward, to pull back from the distractions that dilute your focus. It waits for you to breathe before you speak, pause before you act, reflect before you choose. It is not forceful. It is not reactive. It is still. It is subtle. It arrives like the soft light of morning, not the blinding blaze of noon. And unless you make room for it, you will miss it. There's a reason the wise are often quiet. There's a reason peace feels like silence. When you slow down long enough to turn down the world's volume, your own voice becomes audible again. Not the voice of fear or conditioning, but the voice of knowing, the one that's always been there, hidden beneath the static. That voice doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It speaks only when you're ready to truly listen. You've likely been taught that doing more solves things, that if you just keep going, keep working, keep talking, you'll figure it out. But some answers don't live in action. They live in awareness, and awareness can only grow in quiet. Stillness is the soil where wisdom takes root. Silence is not an absence. It is the fullness of space where insight can breathe. When you're constantly consuming people's opinions, society's standards, endless noise, you lose touch with your own truth. You confuse external pressure with internal purpose. You can't hear your soul over the sound of everyone else's agenda. That's why intentional silence is an act of power. It's a declaration that your inner knowing matters more than external noise, that your clarity is worth waiting for. But creating that silence takes courage. It means stepping away from what everyone else is doing. It means resisting the impulse to react, to reply, to keep the performance going. It means sitting in the in-between, where answers haven't arrived yet and distractions are no longer comforting. That space feels uncomfortable at first. You will want to reach for your phone, your schedule, your old habits. But stay in that stillness long enough and something shifts. You begin to see more clearly, not just your circumstances, but yourself. You realize how much noise you've internalized, how many of your thoughts were borrowed, how many of your beliefs were inherited. You begin to separate your voice from the crowd. You start hearing what actually feels right instead of what sounds popular. And in that moment, you reclaim your power. Clarity is a sacred gift. And like all sacred things, it doesn't show up in chaos. It needs reverence. It needs quiet. It needs space. When you cultivate silence in your day, even just for a few minutes, you signal to your spirit that it is safe to speak. And the wisdom that comes through in that space is often exactly what you were searching for in all your striving. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to earn it through effort. You need only to allow it. It's already within you, buried under noise, yes, but not lost. You don't need to add more to your life to find it. You need to subtract, to release, to unplug. It's in the quiet moments, the breath between decisions, the pause before reaction. Those are where the answers live. The more you trust that space, the more you'll find that clarity was never far away. It was simply waiting for the noise to stop. Healing is a sacred process, not a performance. And too often we confuse attention with progress. We think talking about the pain over and over is the same as letting it go. We believe analyzing the wound, replaying the hurt, and revisiting the details will somehow accelerate the healing. But healing doesn't happen just because you touch the pain. It happens when you learn to stop picking at it. A wound cannot close if you keep reopening it. You can't expect restoration if you refuse to release. But pain, for many of us, becomes familiar. We hold on to it, not because we enjoy suffering, but because suffering gives us a sense of identity, a story, something to cling to. We don't know who we are without it, and so we carry the heartbreak, the betrayal, the disappointment like a badge, not realizing we're bleeding all over everything we try to build. But healing does not ask you to forget. It asks you to forgive, not necessarily them, but yourself, for staying too long, for believing too hard, for not knowing better when you didn't have the tools. And once that forgiveness begins, the wound softens. It stops screaming for attention. It begins slowly to close. The problem is, most of us are afraid of silence, because silence makes you feel the weight of what was never said, what was never resolved. So we stir it up again. We go back to old conversations. We check on people who hurt us. We reread old messages, revisit old places, romanticize old pain. We pick and pick and pick, and then wonder why we still feel raw. But healing doesn't need you to explain the wound. It needs you to protect it. It needs you to stop dragging it into rooms where it doesn't belong. It needs you to stop letting people who hurt you take up space in your mind. It needs you to stop waiting for closure from people who were never capable of offering it. You don't need them to say sorry. You don't need them to see the damage. You need to decide that your peace matters more than their participation. The truth is, some healing only begins when you stop arguing with the past. You can't change what happened. You can't rewrite the memory. But you can write a new story from here. You can choose not to carry it forward. You can choose to stop bleeding in places that were meant for blooming. And that choice, though quiet, though deeply personal, is powerful. Sometimes we hold on to pain because we think letting it go means it didn't matter. But honoring your pain doesn't mean keeping it alive. It means acknowledging it, feeling it, and then freeing yourself from it. Just because it hurt doesn't mean you have to carry the hurt forever. Healing means knowing it happened, but not allowing it to define what happens next. Your healing is not in the hands of the one who hurt you. Your healing is in your own hands, in your own silence, in your own willingness to let the scab form and not tear it off the moment it starts to itch. That itch, that temptation to revisit, to re-engage, to explain again, that's your test. That's where the healing either continues or pauses. Sometimes we confuse justice with healing. We want someone to hurt the way we hurt. We want the story to come full circle with them realizing everything they did. But that keeps you stuck. It ties your piece to their awareness. And healing doesn't work like that. Healing says, even if they never change, I will. Even if they never see it, I will rise from it. Even if there's no apology, I will still become whole. It's hard. It's hard to walk away from pain that feels familiar. It's hard to sit in the stillness and not poke the bruise, not rehearse the story. But every time you choose not to reopen the wound, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every time you resist the urge to check up on them, to get that last word to be right, you win. Quietly, surely, beautifully. You win. Healing is not a loud celebration. It's often invisible. It happens in those unseen moments when you choose peace over performance, presence over the past, silence over self-sabotage. It happens when you don't tell the story for the 10th time. It happens when you don't chase the person who left. It happens when you walk past the mirror and smile again, not because everything's perfect, but because you're proud you're still here. The wound may never fully disappear, but its power over you can, and that's what healing is. It's the freedom to live, love, and begin again, without picking at the past, without letting it define your future. You are not your wound. You are what survived it, and now you are what will grow from it. It's easy to believe you're behind when everyone else seems ahead. You scroll through timelines filled with milestones, weddings, promotions, vacations, businesses, and perfectly filtered happiness. And somewhere inside, you begin to question your own pace. You begin to ask, what am I doing wrong? You wonder why your journey looks more like stillness than movement, more like waiting than winning. And slowly, silently, you begin to confuse your preparation season with punishment. But here's the truth. You are not missing out. You are being positioned. It may not look like progress from the outside. It may not feel like a victory. But this season, this quiet, hidden, stretching space is sacred. You are being shaped, not sidelined. You are being refined, not rejected. Sometimes the universe withholds what you want so you can discover what you need. Sometimes you're not delayed. You're just being aligned. When you're constantly moving, constantly achieving, constantly chasing, you rarely stop to reflect on why. You can accomplish 100 things and still feel empty. You can gain followers, get attention, reach milestones, and still feel lost. But when the noise quiets, when the action slows, something deeper begins to emerge. You begin to hear the whisper of your own purpose. You begin to see what's real and what was just for show. And that's when positioning starts to happen. Positioning is not about being seen. It's about being steady. It's about becoming the kind of person who can carry the blessings they're praying for. You don't just want a breakthrough. You want to be ready for it. You want to be grounded enough not to lose yourself when it comes. You want to be clear enough not to mistake distractions for destiny. And that kind of clarity only comes through stillness. But the world doesn't celebrate stillness. It celebrates speed. It glorifies hustle. It tells you that if you're not moving, you're failing. That if you're not visible, you're irrelevant. But positioning doesn't happen in public. It happens in the shadows. It happens in the moments when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when it's just you and your reflection, you and your decisions, you and your God. You have to be willing to trust the unseen work, the internal shifts, the silent strengthening, the divine delays that feel like rejection but are actually redirection. You are not missing out. You are being equipped. There are things being developed in you right now that you'll need for the season you're walking into. Patience, discernment, self-worth. These aren't just nice qualities. They are foundations. Without them, success will break you. With them, success will bless you. Every time you feel overlooked, remember this. Preparation is rarely praised, but it is necessary. You can't build anything solid without a foundation, and foundations are built underground. They're hidden, they're slow, but they hold everything up. And one day, when what's yours arrives, it won't shake you. It will stand firmly because you took the time to build what no one could see. You are not too late. You are not too early. You are right on time for your life, not their life, not the life Instagram wants to sell you, not the one your parents planned out for you, yours. And your life unfolds on divine timing. It doesn't follow trends or compare calendars. It honors alignment, not applause. It's easy to look around and feel like everyone else has it figured out. But comparison is the thief of peace. It distorts your perspective and blinds you to your own blessings. You don't know the cost of what they're carrying. You don't see the struggle behind the smile. You don't know if their stage is stable or crumbling. And even if it is real, that's their story, not yours. Stay in your lane. Focus on your own path. Because when your time comes, it won't be a copy. It'll be an original. Yours, tailor-made, and worth every second you waited. Sometimes being positioned means being pulled back, like an arrow stretched in the opposite direction of your desire. But that stretch, that tension, it's not holding you back, it's building momentum. When the time is right, you'll be released into everything meant for you. And it'll come not because you forced it, but because you were ready for it. Readiness isn't always obvious. Sometimes you think you're ready because you're eager, because you're hungry, because you're tired of waiting. But readiness is deeper than impatience. It's about your capacity. Can you hold what you're asking for without dropping yourself? Can you love deeply without losing boundaries? Can you lead powerfully without letting ego take over? Can you succeed without forgetting who you are? If the answer is not yet, that's okay. That's not failure. That's not falling behind. That's positioning. That's the divine shaping you, teaching you, strengthening your character so your calling doesn't crush you. You are not being punished for doing something wrong. You are being prepared for something right. You are being hidden so you can be revealed when your roots are deep enough to withstand the wind. So the next time you feel like life is passing you by, remind yourself, I'm not missing out, I'm being positioned, and when your moment comes, it will find you fully formed, not frantic, grounded, not grasping, ready, not rushing. Everything good grows in the dark before it reaches the light, and right now, even if you can't see it, something in you is growing quietly, powerfully, on purpose. And when it finally blooms, you'll understand why you had to wait, why you had to be still, why nothing made sense for a while. You'll see that what felt like a pause was really a positioning, and you weren't missing out. You were being moved into place. We are taught from the earliest moments that life is a fight, that if you want something, you have to push for it. Struggle becomes a rite of passage. We're told to grind harder, move faster, keep going no matter what. Cry if you must, but never quit. This mindset becomes our armor. We equate strength with resistance. We equate victory with exhaustion. And we carry that belief into everything: relationships, careers, healing, even faith. But there comes a moment in every soul's journey when the very thing you thought would save you, the fight, is what's keeping you stuck, because your breakthrough was never in the fight. It was in the surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving over. It means loosening your grip on control and trusting something deeper than your ego. It means recognizing that all your effort, all your pushing, all your striving has taken you as far as it can, and now it's time to let grace do what force never could. There is a sacred strength in letting go, in unclenching your fists and saying, I don't know the outcome, but I'm going to trust the process. That trust is not weakness, it is wisdom. It's knowing that not everything can be fixed by force. Some things can only be healed by release. Some storms don't pass until you stop trying to control the weather and start learning how to dance in the rain. But surrender is terrifying to the ego. The ego wants certainty, it wants answers, it wants to be in charge. And when things begin to unravel, the ego panics. It tells you to fix, to grasp, to overthink, to defend. That's why surrender feels so unnatural. It goes against everything you've been conditioned to believe. The world doesn't praise surrender. It praises those who fight through the pain, even if it breaks them. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let it fall apart. Let the relationship go. Let the dream shift. Let the old version of you die. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that holding on too long can hurt more than letting go ever will. There is healing in the unraveling. There is peace in the release. There is clarity in the stillness that follows the surrender. Your breakthrough won't come from winning every argument. It won't come from outworking everyone in the room. It won't come from proving your worth or forcing your way forward. It will come when you finally sit still long enough to hear what your soul has been trying to tell you all along. You are enough as you are. You don't have to fight to deserve rest. You don't have to hustle to be held. You don't have to perform to be loved. Surrender strips away the noise. It invites you back to yourself, to your truth, to your softness. And it's in that softness, not the hard edges of striving, that you find what you were looking for. The love, the clarity, the peace, the direction. It doesn't arrive wrapped in effort. It flows in the quiet aftermath of letting go. There is a version of you on the other side of surrender, lighter, freer, clearer. They aren't weighed down by the pressure to hold everything together. They've learned that they don't have to carry it all alone, that they don't have to have all the answers, that their value isn't tied to how hard they try. That version of you exists, and they are waiting for you to stop fighting long enough to become them. But it takes trust to get there, not blind optimism, not passive hope, but deep, intentional trust, the kind that says, even when I don't understand, I will not abandon myself. Even when the plan shifts, I will remain grounded. Even when I don't feel in control, I will believe that something greater is guiding this. That kind of surrender isn't naive, it's revolutionary, because it dares to believe that peace is possible without a struggle. Some of the most powerful moments in life come when you stop trying to push the river and instead learn how to float. When you stop trying to force love and begin to receive it. When you stop trying to be seen and simply become visible through authenticity. When you stop chasing healing and instead let it come to you in quiet, ordinary moments, through presence, through grace, through rest. Fighting keeps you tired. Surrender sets you free. And no, surrender doesn't mean you stop showing up. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you release the outcome. You release your attachment to how it's supposed to look. You give yourself permission to stop performing and start feeling. You take the weight off your shoulders and place it in the hands of the divine. You stop dragging the past into your future. You stop trying to fix people who don't want to grow. You stop begging life to make sense. Instead, you start living it, raw, honest, open. The greatest breakthroughs don't crash into your life through noise and chaos. They arrive gently through a surrendered heart. They find you when you're no longer hiding behind your hustle, when your hands are open, not clenched, when your soul is quiet enough to say, I'm ready. I release what I thought I needed. I trust what's meant for me. You'll know you've reached surrender when peace finds you in the middle of uncertainty, when you stop chasing what isn't chasing you back, when you begin to breathe again, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer trying to force it to be. Your breakthrough was never waiting at the end of the fight. It was waiting at the beginning of your trust, waiting for you to lean back, to loosen your grip, to let go. And in that letting go, you didn't lose. You gained. You gained yourself. You gained peace. You gained alignment with something far more powerful than anything you could have pushed your way into. And maybe that was the point all along. So today, don't hustle harder. Don't overthink. Don't beg, don't chase, don't fix. Do nothing. And watch. Watch how the pieces rearrange without your pushing. Watch how the answers arrive when you stop asking. Watch how peace returns like an old friend when you finally sit down and say, I trust. And when you trust, everything. My dear, everything, it begins to fall into place.